pass the floor to you.
Yep, to me. Thank you. Welcome everybody. We start this presentation with a short video because one of our team members can actually not be here today, but he integrates via video.
Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, dear members of AISTS Scientific Committee, distinguished representatives of Lagardère Sports, and dear Guy and Jiao. Welcome to the final presentation of our team project. Frankly, at the beginning I felt a little bit pity that I could not attend this presentation because of my business trip for FIH in Brussels. But now I'm joining my team through this digital way, which might partly match to this topic, so I need to say maybe this is exactly a better way. First of all, please allow me to introduce our team members. They are Alexei Mikhailov from Russia, Kalaucha from Germany, Eduardo Sedon from España, Wada, Hitesh Malhotra from India, and Gemma from China. Our topic is new revenue streams from sports video content on digital platforms, which means we will try to figure out some potential new business models on digital platforms for Lagardère Sports. About today's agenda, we will do a brief overview of the whole project at the beginning. Then the following part is research findings, which include global findings, country-specific characteristics, and sports-specific characteristics. The research of target customers have been put in the third part, and the business recommendations, including global business ideas and the local business ideas, is the fourth part. And finally, we will take some questions. So now, let's enter the section of Project Brief. As everyone knows, Lagardère Sports is a world-leading sports agency with various business in the areas of sponsorship, content, consulting, events, athletes, and venues. They launched this project in order to find new ways of increasing new revenue streams from sports video content on digital platforms, specializing in the development from a linear to non-linear media consumption. In regard to the topic, it's rather specific and they will sometimes use specific terms. We will try to explain the key terms, but please do not hesitate to ask afterward in case something remains unclear. Based on the requirements of our clients, we have focused on 5 specific sports, which are football, aquatics, table tennis, word games, and esports. And the focus on 5 different territories, which are China, Russia, Great Britain, South Europe countries, including España, Italy, and France, and Nordic countries. Now, please welcome Carla to introduce methodology and the global findings. See you later.
Well, thank you for this introduction to Brussels. Now, as Jen just mentioned, the main objective of our project was to identify new business potentials for Lagardère Sports in non-linear, that is in digital markets. Now, we had to get familiar with the terminology and we quickly want to introduce it to you as well. So, linear media markets mainly refer to the traditional production, distribution, and also consumption through TV stations and regular TV sets that we know from previous years. Non-linear refers to the digital distribution and the consumption through several connected devices. Now, Lagardère's current dilemma is that the revenue streams coming from linear business models are constantly declining, and that they don't know yet fully how their customers, and especially the end customers, behave and how their viewing habits in the digital spheres are. So Lagardère's main aim was to get a better understanding of their end customers in specific markets. Now I briefly want to give you an overview of how we approached our project. We mainly divided it into 3 phases. Started with an extensive research phase focusing on all the countries and the sports that Jen just mentioned, where we not only took into consideration different reports and analysis, also news releases, interviews, and in addition also had specific expert interviews with colleagues from Lagardère. We then overlapped all our research findings to analyze gaps and potential new business ideas, and in a 3rd phase, further developed new business models that we think could work in our specific countries. We focused our research on 4 main areas. The first being consumer behavior and viewing habits, Second being video consumption, especially sports video consumption. So what kind of revenue models work and what kind of growth mechanisms work in the different countries and also on a global scale. Third, we had a look at how sports organizations commercialize their rights in digital. And fourth, we tried to identify future trends. Now, we did that for all the countries that Jen just mentioned, but considering the time today, we will only focus on the globally applicable findings. That is, all the findings that we found were true in all the countries of our research. And we will also only focus on globally applicable business models later on. If you have country-specific questions, we're happy to take them afterwards. Globally speaking, there is a clear shift when we look at consumer behavior and viewing habits from recent years where we had rather limited access to media content and how we consumed media to our consumption behavior today, where we use several different devices, some of them even simultaneously, and where we have access to media pretty much 24 hours. A recent report of the Ericsson Consumer Lab also showed that while we constantly spend less hours on traditional TVs per week, the hour that we spend on different mobile devices increase, and that to such a degree that the overall hours that we spend watching video content and consuming media per week actually increases globally. Looking at revenue models, there are pretty much two revenue models that work throughout the whole world. We have in the traditional model, we pretty much revenue was pretty much generated mainly through advertisements. Now, in the digital model that we focus on, we still have revenues coming from advertisements, but at the same time, there is a second revenue stream coming from subscriptions from the customers directly to the content owner or distributor. More striking is that there are also similar growth mechanisms that apply throughout the whole world. We identified 5 different growth mechanisms. They all focus on the end customer in the center of their attention. So first, customers want to have high streaming quality and want to be able to stream content on different devices. Second, they also want interactive, entertaining, and fun content. They want to have personal information cut down to their specific interests and needs. They want to have additional information and data provided to them, and it should be easy to integrate it into social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. Now, based on that, we were also able to identify several future trends. We mainly see 3 key drivers. First being technology, where we currently have virtual and augmented reality, HD streaming, and cloud services as main trends. A big driver is the internet and the innovation that it provides, where we currently have trends like big data, social media, and especially e-commerce, pushing from the Asian markets, especially from China. And more specific to our topic, we also see video on demand services, where the customer pretty much can watch a video whenever he or she wants to watch it. And over-the-top OTT services, which is whenever a content, video for example, is provided to the customer directly from the content owner via the internet without any additional agents or actors between them. A famous example in this regard is Netflix. The third driver that we identified is information as entertainment, where we see a clear trend towards personalized data, personalized content, additional informations individualized for the consumers, and a clear focus on the fan as an economic factor. Alexi will now go briefly into the country and sport-specific findings.
Thank you, Carla. So, as for sport-specific characteristics and findings, when looking at China, what was striking to see initially was that 85% or about 85% of sports media consumers go to social media and digital platforms to access their sports information. So with that said, there is a big boom in digital platforms, with obviously mobiles being the leading platform out there. And one thing that's important to consider is that markets are controlled by the government. Similar with Russia, there's an increase in internet usage, specifically in remote areas where there was previously no access to internet, such as the countryside. And like in China, there's limitations to foreign investment, which is important to consider. As for the Nordics, we learned that they're technologically savvy and digitally mature consumers. There's a trend for personalized offerings as well as interactive and engaging content, and it's an easy market to access. As for the United Kingdom, what we saw is that the market itself is also mature but also technologically advanced. And one thing that's important to consider is the economic uncertainties such as Brexit. Now on to Southern Europe. There's a strong market for paid content with quadruple players leading the way, offering for services from landline, TV, mobile, internet. And like the Nordics, it's a market that's fairly easily accessible with not many regulations. Onto the sport-specific characteristics. Well, as Jean mentioned in the video before, we focused on 5 sports, including football, esports, aquatics, table tennis, and the World Games. When talking about football, we learned that it's the most commercialized sport out of the ones that we were talking about, but also probably in the world. And we looked at established leagues versus newly developing leagues, such as the Chinese Super League, the Major Soccer League in the United States. And we then focused on 3 leagues specified by Lagardère, including the Polish, Portuguese, and Turkish League. And with that, we looked at expatriate communities, trying to see which ones would be the better ones for Lagardère to look at. As for esports, what we saw is that there's no clear structures in terms of regulations, policies, governance. However, it's an extremely fast-growing sport with high revenues all across the world, big amounts of audiences, and great potential for fan engagement. The fans are genuinely attracted and attached to the product that they receive, and most of them are actually gamers. As for aquatics, we learned that it's a big market and it has a big fan base. However, commercialization levels are fairly low, similar with table tennis. Low commercialization levels, however, it's a developed sport with a developed federation. What we saw is that the ITTTF, the Table Tennis Federation, they just got back the commercial rights after not having them for many years. And with that came new strategies, including new event and competition strategies. Last but not least, the World Games. Well, it's once every 4 years, so there's regional peaks. Overall, low commercialization levels, but it will be interesting to see the involvement with the Olympic Channel, since they will be broadcasting the upcoming World Games in Poland. Now I'll quickly pass on to Hitesh, who will talk about target customers.
Thank you, Alexi. So during our research findings, we came up with the target customers for our digital content. So during our research, we find out like Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z. They are the main for our target customers. And if you see, the whole digital market is evolving from last 10 to 15 years a lot for the Generation Z. For the Generation X, we have to come up with the short-term revenue plans for this one. And for Generation Z, we have to come up with a long-term revenue plan, because Generation Z will bring up more money to the top channels. So my team, we will explain you regarding all the profiles of these generations. Hello, Generation X.
Hi, my name is Marty. I'm 45. I'm married and I have 2 children. And last year I had a great idea. I bought a smart TV. Since then, I have not been able to take the remote because it's always with my wife and my teenage daughter. And in the meantime, my son is playing video games with a mouse that has 13 buttons. Can you believe that? 13. I mean, all I ever needed was 2 buttons.
Thank you, Generation X. So myself, Generation Y. My name is Kunal. I'm 28 years old. I use Google Nexus Mobile and MacBook Air with Kindle and Samsung Tab. You can say like I use different brands. So basically, my generation is the one who is driving the internet trends, Amazon and Netflix and that one. And if you see the whole scenario, so I want to be ahead of the game, and we, Generation Y, want to know the first. So Generation Z.
Generation Z.
Huh? Hi, I'm Clay, and I'm practically born in the Generation Z, in the digital world. I'm a multi-device user, and as you can see, I have a fear of missing out on information. Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Generation Z. So, as we know, like we have to come up with a long-term revenue plan for the Generation Z. So we find out the spendings of the Generation Z annually. So they are spending more than $1,000 on their mobile phone and video games. So if you calculate the whole population of the Generation Z, that is going to be 2.56 billion in 2020, and then the revenue generated will be around 3 trillion. So we have to target this generation for the more revenue generation for the upcoming. So, yeah. So now my dear friend Eduardo will explain regarding our revenue generation future trends.
Thank you very much. Yes. So I'm going to introduce some business recommendations that we have for Lagardère. We have provided 5 global recommendations, which are the Lagardère becomes a full service agency integrating all kinds of digital services, that it creates esports teams, it also develops its own OTT platforms, and it creates a flexible model of bundling of content, and it also becomes a digital entertainment trader. We have also provided some local business ideas. As you can see here, there's for China to create a live streaming video app to focus on strategic long partner relationships. In Russia, to sell broadcasting rights to different mobile operators, which are very powerful in the country, and to broadcast the World Games, since they are always ranking first in those competitions. For Southern Europe, also broadcast the World Games because they're successful countries as well, and to get hold of women's football properties in Southern Europe and in the UK. And in the northern countries to provide solutions around the personalization of content. Now I'm going to focus on 3 global ideas that are the ones that we consider the ones with the highest potential. As I mentioned before, full service agency. This means that Lagardère would be the one-stop shop for international federations and clubs. And we see 2 lines of business here. One is for smaller clients focusing on white-label products. What this means is that those are products that you develop once that you can sell on multiple occasions and to multiple clients. And for major clients, this would demand more individualized and full content strategies. Second global business idea is freemium over-the-top platforms. This again has 2 lines of work, and it requires one big development, but then it can be tailored to several countries, adapting the sports that are interested to the audience in those specific countries. The free model would bring in revenues from advertisers, and the premium model would bring revenue from the customers that would be paying a subscription directly to Lagardère Sports. And we see that this has a big potential because Lagardère Sports already has the right for several properties worldwide. And the last revenue recommendation is to become a digital entertainment trader. This is something that is already happening in the fashion industry, but we have not seen any major players in sports yet. So the idea here is that Lagardère would use the synergies that it has with other divisions as they represent athletes. These athletes can be sports influencers, which are attractive for consumers and fans. And they also have a big pool of brands that they work with, such as sponsors and advertisers. Now, the sports influencers provide the values, credibility, and passion and followers for the brands. And there are 2, and by this they can create marketing campaigns and gain exposure from the brands. And this will bring in 2 revenue streams: one, commission fees from sports influencers; the other one, production and management fees from the brands. And finally, to wrap this presentation up, as we mentioned before, there are some clear global trends, such as increasing mobile viewing and consumption, the increasing demand for audiovisual content, video on demand services, personalized content and additional information and entertainment. And focusing on this, we have identified some global business ideas focusing on Generation Y and Generation Z, and focusing on the flexibility of services, the demand for entertainment, and the great potential and the quick growth of esports. finally to conclude.
Bravo. Well done, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. Now my colleagues are very happy to take your questions. Please.